everyone, welcome to another episode of Tech Talk with Ishmael. Today's topic is the backbone of any computer system, and this is based on the motherboard. We will break down what makes this essential component tick, covering form factors, chipsets, choosing the right motherboard, and how to install and troubleshoot one. Two tech enthusiasts, Joshua and Zachariah, are joining me today. Welcome, guys.
Sam, Ishmael, excited to dive into this.
Yeah, the motherboard is super crucial and is often misunderstood. Let's clear things up.
Absolutely. So, let's kick things off by discussing form factors. Joshua, can you explain what motherboard form factor is and how it matters or why it matters?
Sure thing. A form factor is a physical size and a layout of a motherboard. It determines how the motherboard fits into the case and what kind of hardware it can support. The most common form factor are the ATX, the micro ATX, and the mini ITX. For instance, the ITX motherboard is a large motherboard that have more expansion slots, and the mini ITX motherboard are compact and great for smaller builds.
Exactly. The motherboard also impacts things like how much RAM or how many GPUs you are going to install. It's crucial to ensure that the form factor of the motherboard matches with your needs and the size of your case.
Right. So if you are building a gaming rig or a high performance, you must opt for ATX. But if space is limited, micro ATX or mini ITX could be a better fit. Now, moving on to another key point, the chipset. Zachariah, what can you tell us about the chipset?
So the chipset is basically the communication hub for the motherboard. It manages data flow between the memory, the processor, and other components. There are different types of chipsets. There are different types of chipsets with different purposes. High-end chipsets like the Intel Z series or the AMD X series support overclocking and multiple GPUs, while budget chipsets like the A series and the H series are more basic and ideal for standard office and home use.
Yeah, the chipset also determines the motherboard feature support, like the number of USB port, the SATA connection, and the PCIe lines for expansion cards. So when you are choosing a motherboard, the chipset is the most important thing to look at.
Good point. So that brings us to our next subtopic, choosing the right motherboard. Joshua, what should people keep in mind when they are picking a motherboard for their build?
Great question. First, you need to consider the processor. Not all motherboards support all CPU. You have to check the socket type. For instance, the CPU requires an CPU compatibility socket, like the LGA 1200, or the MDU sockets like the AM4 net. Think about the feature upgrade. Are you going to add more RAM or a second graphic card later? If so, make sure your motherboard has enough slots for expansion.
Exactly, and don't forget about features. Do you want Wi-Fi on board? How many USB ports and SATA connectors do you want? Also, check the voltage regulator module quality if you plan on overclocking, as it helps manages power delivery to the CPU.
Great advice. Now, let's talk about something a lot of people worries about, installing a motherboard. Zachariah, can you walk us through the basic steps of installing a motherboard in our PC?
Sure, installing a motherboard isn't as complicated as it seems. First, make sure the motherboard form factor matches with the size of the case. Next, you make sure that the I/O shield, that's the metal plate for the ports, is at the back of the case. Then we align the motherboard inside the case and secure it with screws.
Yeah, once the motherboard is in, you can now start connecting your power cables from the PSU, the power supply unit, to the motherboard, like the 24 pins, the CPU power cables. Then install your RAM, your CPU, and your storage device. Don't forget to plug in all the front panel connectors to the power button and the USB ports.
Nice and simple. But what happens when things don't go according to plan? Let's cover troubleshooting. Joshua, what are some of the common motherboard issues people might face, and how can we troubleshoot them?
One common issue is the PC not booting after installation. Check if all power cables are properly connected. Another issue is the BIOS not detecting the component like the hard drive or the GPU. In the case, restart the components and make sure all connectors are secure.
Another thing to consider is the beep codes and the diagnostic LEDs. Some motherboards have indicators that tell you when there is a problem, like faulty CPU or RAM. And if your system isn't turning on at all, you might want to reset the CMOS by removing the battery for a few seconds.
Great tips, guys. So, to wrap things up, let's each give one final piece of advice for anyone dealing with motherboards. Joshua.
I had always checked for compatibility first, whether it is the form factor, the CPU socket, the chipset. This will save a lot of headache down the road.
And for me, it's about making sure you have a good airflow in your case, especially if you are overclocking. A well-cooled motherboard can run for a longer period and runs more efficiently.
Excellent advice from both of you. That's all the time we have today on Tech Talk with Ishmael. I hope you all learned something valuable about motherboards. Thanks to Joshua and Zachariah for joining me, and thank you all for watching. If you have any questions, drop them in the comment section below. And don't forget to like, subscribe for more tech insights.
Thanks, Ishmael.
Catch you later, everyone.
Bye.